Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me on Substack, and thank you for your subscription. As many of you know, your subscription helps pay for all my mission work, and we have a couple of great missions coming up. We're going to Ecuador in a couple of months, and then we're also going to the Amazon River in Brazil, and we have a trip scheduled for Togo, Africa. So thank you so much. Also, you'll be receiving replays of my keynote talk on microcurrent that was given at the 19th Annual Microcurrent Conference. So all of you will be getting a link for that. I think you'll find that meeting very, very interesting. Microcurrent was used as early as 1803. A textbook was published on the use of microcurrent in the treatment of eye disease. So you can see that a lot of these modalities that we're using now are not new. They've been used for a long time. So anyway, let's open it up for questions. And I see Frances has her hand up. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Kondrot. Actually, I just came on to report a positive event,
Good. We like positive events.
Yeah, since I've been trying this this last homeopathic remedy, I've often thought what happens is I get severe hives on my lower legs when I walk, for more than an hour. So actually, I thought if these hives stop, it's been happening since my 40s. If these hives stop, I'd be pretty sure I've found the right remedy. So I've hiked now 3 times, once over 2 hours and another time over 3 hours, and no hives, or at least
Oh,
almost
fantastic.
no, almost none, just a tiny patch. And so I really do feel that this last remedy is probably the right one. And I'm just very grateful for that. And anyway, I just want to report.
Yeah, homeopathy can be magical, but on the other hand, it's not easy. We got to get the right remedy.
Right.
That's why
Exactly. Yeah.
That's why I asked you all these particular questions. What
Yeah.
temperature do you like, and what foods, and sleep, and because we're treating the person.
Yeah. There are other things that I hope will be corrected, but this feels like I'm on the right path.
Yeah, with homeopathy, we like to see a positive change. Um, and sometimes it's just the beginning. One
Yeah.
thing will change and then the next.
Good. Hopefully. Yes.
Good. I'm
All right.
very,
Thank
very
you.
happy.
Thank
Happy.
you.
And thanks for sharing.
Yeah. I'm going to
And
have to leave. I'll leave here pretty soon. I've got another appointment. So thank you.
okay, well, thank you.
Yeah.
And those of you that might be interested in homeopathy, I'd be happy to do a homeopathic consult on you. I think it's a wonderful way to improve not only your overall health, but your vision. Um, okay, so any other questions? Let me see here. I'm going to check the chat. Okay, I have the chat open. You can type your question in, but I prefer that you raise your hand. Oh, my apologies, because we had the time confused for this. I think it was supposed to be a little later. Then I discovered that I had a previous appointment at that time. We have a quiet group here. Okay, somebody wrote, what are your recommendations for PEMF? Pulse electromagnetic field is a wonderful healing modality. I said heating, it's a healing modality. And how is it different than microcurrent? Well, when electricity flows through a wire, there's a magnetic field that's produced that radiates from the wire. So microcurrent, we're putting the current directly into the tissue. The pulse electromagnetic field is a side effect of the electrical current moving. Now, I think the pulse electromagnetic field, those modalities, and there's a lot of different instruments out there that produces a field, can be wonderful for general body healing, improving circulation. I do not like it for the eye, mainly because I think a lot of the magnetic currents are a little bit too high. And I have seen some people suffer uh, some ill effects, not permanent, but I have seen some patients have an increase in pressure, a decrease in vision because the intensity was too high. And many of these devices, you can't control the intensity. With microcurrent, we can specifically control the current level very precisely. And when you're treating the eye, we want a very, very low current. We're doing in terms of a millionth of an amp, very, very low current. So I like the PEMF for general treatments, back pain, improving circulation, etc. I do not like it for the eye unless the technology changes and there's a little bit more precise measurements. A lot of people feel it's bad for the brain. So there are some practitioners out there that say, don't use it on your head. So that's another reason why I don't like PEMF for eye treatments because it's too close to the brain. Otherwise, I think it's a good modality. There's sleeping mats with the PEMF that are wonderful. In fact, my wife and I have used them. Help you get a good night's sleep. It stimulates general circulation and relaxation. So I hope that answers your question on the PEMF.
Yeah, so my question, so like
Who's speaking? I don't see
of
you.
Mora.
Oh, okay. I don't see you, but I see a
Oh,
beautiful picture there.
oh yeah,
A
okay.
beach.
Yeah, it's Ireland. But anyway, so my question was about the PMF. So then like there's all different types. Um then Dr. Pollock had done a chat on one of the Zooms I was on. So then I was, kind of because I have side problems, obviously. I don't think any of us don't, but I, was kind of curious about how it would help if you put it on further away from your head or your eyes.
Well, it's good for musculoskeletal problems. It's good for improving circulation, but I think there's a danger using it on the eye and the head. So I don't recommend that on the eye or the brain.
So let me ask you a question. I mean, I have a lot of eye problems, but it's kind of like you always go to doctors. So they say, "Well, what's the one thing that bothers you right now?" So you kind of like reduce down to like 2 seconds, and you kind of blurt out, "Well, this is my problem." But I think the with meibomian gland disorders, then what do you find has been the most effective? And then what do you suggest with regard to the tear breakup time for eyes? Because it seems like a lot of people I go to, like they're like, oh, it's 5, so that's fine, but it's clearly not fine, or it wouldn't
Well,
be there.
see, my approach is you tell me you have a meibomian gland dysfunction or
Yeah.
you have a problem with your tear breakup time. As a kind of like an alternative doctor and holistic doctor, I don't treat numbers. I don't treat dysfunctions. I treat your symptoms. So the first thing I would ask you, what is your main complaint with your eyes? Based on the homeopathic perspective, we're looking at complaints or symptoms. Uh, you know, so what
Yeah,
that would be my
poor
first
vision.
question.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a ton of pain. Just always feeling like dry, and you just like if you have water in your eyes you can actually see pretty well, but
Hmm.
when you have severe meibomian gland disorder, well, you just don't see well, period. Like, I mean, it's just you don't have good quality sight.
Well,
And
see, that's the problem with a lot of doctors. They give a label on it or a diagnosis, but they don't have a good answer. So, if you have your eyes are uncomfortable, you have dryness, you have poor vision, then we would look for treatments for that. Now, the number one treatment that I like for dry eyes and irritated eyes is ozone eye drops. And I've spoken about that before. It's actually a simple treatment. You buy an ozone generator. You can buy them online. You make your own ozone saline eye drops and use them. Ozone is helps regenerate the eye. It's also a disinfectant. But before I even talk about ozone eye drops, I like to, I believe that food is our best medicine. If you have a meibomian gland dysfunction or you have dry eyes, it may be related to your diet and nutrition. The omega-3 oils are very healthy for the eye. I like flaxseed, borage, primrose oil. I like all those oils as omega-3s. I'm not really big with fish oils because fish oils, I think, a lot of them are contaminated. A lot of them are rancid. And I think excessive fish oils can cause more damage to the eye. So you want to favor the good, healthy omega-3s, and you want to avoid omega-6s. So many of our food now is fried in omega-6s, like canola oil, all the seed oils. And I think those are inflammatory, and that could be causing a problem with meibomian gland dysfunction and dry eyes. So I always like to look at the underlying cause. What is causing the meibomian gland dysfunction? And then
There
kind
was
of address that.
Yeah, there was something the way they kind of look at, when they can't figure anything out, they start looking at auto antibodies. So, I had auto antibodies not for the parotid glands or the cerebral glands, but for my retina and my optic nerve. And, I had auto antibodies to both of those. But then there was some study out about people that have this chronic dry eye or whatever that could have auto antibodies to the parotid. So then it all boils back to autoimmune disease, whatever that is, whatever's driving that.
Yeah, but medicine always has a solution du jour, and now the big one is autoimmune disease. If you have a problem, it's an autoimmune problem. And then it may change. Before it was an enzyme deficiency. There's always these theories that come and go about the cause of disease. But I think as a homeopathic doctor, I'm looking at your body has a disharmony, and there's a way we can treat that disharmony. It's based on the law of similars, and the law of similars has been in practice for over 300 years. You find the symptom, and you find a homeopathic remedy which causes that symptom in a disease state, and you'll find out that then you can cure the body. When I had severe adult onset asthma, of course they said it was autoimmune, it was inflammatory, it was allergic, all these things. I was on 3 asthma medications, almost died twice, and none of the medical doctors had a solution. And it was one homeopathic remedy that cured me of my asthma. Not only cured me of my asthma, but that it was a mental emotional change in me. For some reason, I became more relaxed, calmer. I had a different outlook on life. So that's one of the reasons why I like homeopathy, that anytime you have a disease state, it's based on an imbalance of your body. And of course, modern medicine, they always try to dissect it on the molecular level. It's autoimmune, it's this, it's that. But the body has a certain amount of intelligence. And if we look at the symptoms, we should have a solution.
Yeah, I suppose like one question I have, because I think a lot of people are left to figure a lot of things out themselves. But I mean, I just know for myself or whatever, because I have uveitis as well, and kind of progressed to a chronic state. But getting rid of the wheat, and but then if you get rid of kind of wheat, the butyric acid, like but anyway, that was a massive improvement in symptomology for me, just getting rid of wheat. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, they diagnose you with one autoimmune disease, and the next thing it's three, and you know, you go down that pathway. But you know, a huge amount of things I've eliminated, like dairy and all seed oils and every single thing. Like I'm super. But yeah, the one thing I haven't been able to clear has been the dry eye. I've gone for the lippy flows, and you know, that's just like patching something until you know you need it again, type thing. And then the punctal plugs, and you know that whole thing. So, um, but you can end up going down rabbit holes with the allopaths that lead no place except to more ill health. Um,
Well, there's a lot of really good homeopaths in Ireland. You know, you
yeah.
have the Irish Homeopathic Society is one of the top societies, and a good friend of mine, well, he's not in Ireland, Francis Truez, I think he's in London,
Okay.
but he wrote a book called uh, the Great uh, the the Irish potato famine, the homeopathic perspective of the Irish potato famine, which is a really fascinating book on the use of homeopathy. It was
Yeah.
a really
It,
great book. But I would look, you know, people start, they have a problem and they go in so many different directions and nothing helps. And that's why I really like homeopathy, because homeopathy looks at all of your symptoms, everything that's going on, and we try to come up with a solution. So I would really, you know, look at homeopathy. Okay, we have a question on Oclumed eye drops and recommendations. Well, Oclumed is a drop I like to help slow the progression of cataracts, in many cases, actually reverse cataracts, and simply applying it twice a day, one drop in the eye twice a day. And uh, I don't think there's any real way that you can improve the absorption except for microcurrent, because microcurrent can act as a carrier. So many of my patients who are using microcurrent will put a drop of Oclumed in and then apply the microcurrent, because microcurrent tends to carry material into the eye.
can I ask you a question just about the microcurrent and PEMF? Like I'm not I wish I was an electrician, you know, kind of would be smarter about these things, but I just guess I'm just kind of confused about microcurrents and PEMFs.
Well, that would probably take me, I think what you might want to do is you'll be getting all the Substack. I just gave a keynote presentation on the history of microcurrent and eye disease. And it was first actually published in 1803 by a German Walther, a book on microcurrent and eye disease. It was widely used in the United States in the 1800s and early 1900s. Many homeopathic doctors combined microcurrent and homeopathy. They used the two together to treat different eye diseases. And in my talk, I talked about different case studies and doctors that were using it. So I would encourage you, you'll be getting a copy of that to review. But I spoke earlier that microcurrent and PEMF are entirely different, two different modalities, although they both are related to electricity. So microcurrent is a direct current where current is applied to the tissue. The pulse electromagnetic field, when electricity flows through a wire, a magnetic field radiates from that wire. In fact, an electrician can measure it. They can hold a device over a wire and they can tell you the exact number of amperage that's going through that wire because there's a magnetic current. An interesting phenomenon occurred to me when I was doing early investigation with microcurrent. Um, the engineer was hooking up electrodes to me and he was running microcurrent into my body. And then I had an oscilloscope attached to me and we were measuring the waveforms that were going into my body. And then he disconnected the microcurrent leads. And on the oscilloscope, there was still a pattern. And I said to him, "Oh, that must be my heart rate." He said, "No, you're picking up the pulse electric magnetic field from the wires in this room. So when a current, you turn on your light bulb or light in your home, there's a current going through that wire and it produces a magnetic field. You can actually measure it. So that is the pulse electromagnetic field that was being absorbed by my body.
So how does grounding then play out in the whole, kind of with currents and, health? Because and then
Well, you have a lot of questions.
yeah, I was just
Okay,
curious.
grounding. There's a wonderful book called Earthing, written by Dr. Sinatra. If you want to know more about grounding, I highly recommend you read his book on earthing. And Dr. Sinatra, he passed away a couple of years ago, but when he was alive, we were living together in Florida and we were good friends. I can remember when I first met him, he was a speaker at the major medical meeting, and he was one of the speakers, and he said, "The greatest discovery in my life has been earthing." And he made a copy of his book available for every doctor in that room, which I was impressed. It was over 1,000 doctors, and everybody got a copy of his book. And he felt that the problem with modern society, we are not being grounded to the earth. Many of us spend our whole life without touching the earth. And this occurred after right during World War II, when they went from leather-soled shoes to rubber-soled shoes. Rubber is an insulator. So now all of us are walking around in Keds, rubber-based shoes, which are an insulator. We're not in touch with the earth. In the old days, we had leather. Leather would ground us. We were walking on cement, dirt. We were being grounded to the earth. So he felt that one of the most healthy measures you could take is grounding to the earth, taking off your shoes and socks and walking barefoot. And he has case after case of people with chronic diseases that were cured just by doing grounding. And of course, that's one of the reasons why when you take a vacation and you're at the seashore, the ocean, you're walking in the sand and the salt water, of course, you're on vacation and you're away from all the stresses. That helps. But also, you have an amazing source of grounding. So when you're walking in the salt water, my goodness, you have thousands of square miles of ocean that are grounding you to the earth, and the salt water conducts electricity. So they've identified frequencies. The earth has a frequency. It's called the Schumann frequency, which I think is about 7.2 hertz. And all of my microcurrent programs have that Schumann frequency in them. But of course, applying microcurrent to your eye or your body through a machine isn't as effective as grounding to the earth. So those of you that might be interested, pick up a copy of the book called Earthing by Sinatra. I've read it at least 2 or 3 times. He has a lot of examples of eye cases that have been cured with earthing. And right now I'm talking to you, and believe it or not, I have bare feet and I'm being grounded. Now, the thing is, if you have a wooden floor, you're not going to be grounded. If you have a concrete floor, ceramic tile, you can be grounded with that. But the wood is an insulator. And you can actually buy grounding mats, your electrical outlet. There's a grounding wire that goes deep into the earth. And so they now have commercially, you can buy mats that you can, ground yourself. So that's something that we should probably talk more about on Substack, the benefits of earthing or grounding and the frequencies of the earth.
So can you overdo it? The way sometimes with like the light, you can just overdo exposure, you know?
Definitely. Too much water can kill you. We want to keep hydrated, but too much water can kill you. Too much oxygen can kill you too. So it's moderation. Same thing with ultraviolet light. We need ultraviolet light. One of the biggest deficiencies that we're seeing now is a deficiency in vitamin D. We need ultraviolet light to produce vitamin D in our body, but it depends where you live. I know if you're living in Seattle and you can barely see the sun, you can spend all day outdoors and probably not get enough. But if you live in Phoenix, Arizona, high altitude with low humidity, my goodness, a half an hour outdoors is probably enough ultraviolet light. Then it depends on your constitution too, how much melanin you have in your skin pigment, whether you can tolerate. But you do need a certain amount of ultraviolet light. And unfortunately, the medical profession has forced us to be fearful of ultraviolet light. You got to wear sunglasses all the time. You have to put the sunblock on your skin. And most people are deficient in vitamin D. We need the ultraviolet light. In fact, there was a study done at Wills Eye Hospital. They found that without ultraviolet light, the retinal pigment epithelium cannot regenerate. So ultraviolet light is important, but the question is how much? I think moderation. You have to listen to your body.
So a quick question. I mean, I don't want to take up other people's time as well, but I was curious, for people that have intraocular lenses, now you have like this synthetic, device in your eye, and that's going to impact, what light you get. And I just didn't understand about how to be, kind of work around
Well,
lenses.
yeah, well, that's a big problem. You have, if you had cataract surgery, the human lens will protect the retina from an excessive amount of ultraviolet light. And if you look at the human lens, it has kind of a yellowish orange color to it, which is essentially a blue blocker. If you ever buy blue blocking glasses, they have like an orangish tinge. Now, your question about an intraocular lens, when they remove the cataract, they put in an intraocular lens, which doesn't have any blue blocking properties at all. So if you've had cataract surgery, you have to be more concerned about getting excessive amounts of ultraviolet light in your eye. And that's why you probably should be wearing sunglasses outdoors, UV blocking sunglasses. The other danger is we know that IOLs are made out of polymethyl methacrylate plastic. And there's been more and more studies coming out, the dangers of plastic. So here you have this plastic article in your eye, which is connected to your brain. And some of this plastic may be leaching into your brain. So that's one of the reasons why you should consider delaying eye surgery. And that's one of the pet peeves I have, that I think a lot of cataract surgery is done unnecessarily. I hear time and time again, patients will go to their eye doctor. The eye doctor will diagnose cataracts, and they'll go, well, doctor, I'm not having any problems. And the doctor will tell you, well, we better get it taken out now because it's going to grow and it's going to affect your vision later. Insurance will pay for it. And these people aren't having any trouble, and they get their cataract surgery done. And then a couple months later or a year later, then they develop glaucoma or macular degeneration or other problems. It's like, I do believe that cataract surgery is indicated in many cases. If you're not able to function, when I do a mission in Africa, I see young people in their 20s and 30s that are blind from cataracts. I mean, they can't even see a hand move in front of them. And that's when cataract surgery is certainly indicated, because the person is blind and they're not functioning. Years ago, we used to talk about, well, you have the cataracts removed when they're ripe. Well, what do I mean by ripe? Ripe is when they're interfering with your life. If you can't do the things that you're enjoying, then you should consider the cataract surgery. But before you have the cataract surgery, you have to ask yourself, why are you getting the cataracts? Most likely it's due to a nutritional problem. And I think that cataracts are related to a deficiency in vitamin C. Also, I think cataracts are related to toxic load in the body, in particular lead and mercury. And, we're being surrounded by these compounds that contribute to the development of cataracts. So if you are getting a cataract, then you have to ask yourself, what changes can I make in my diet and lifestyle? And certainly the first thing that I would look at is the food you're consuming. Make sure you're getting an adequate amount of vitamin C, you're keeping your body well hydrated, and you're avoiding all the chemical preservatives and pollutants. And the easy way to do that is, I always joke with my patients, if it has a label on it, don't eat it. If it has a label, chances are it has all kind of chemicals, preservatives, and toxins that your body just is not good for your body.
Thank you.
Mara, you're running the show here.
No, I've like a long eye history since I was little, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And the
No, I'll tell you what, Mara, when 40 years ago, when I first went into practice, uveitis was rare. And now it's like every week I'm seeing case after case of uveitis. And for those of you that don't know what uveitis is, it's an inflammatory condition that takes place in the eye. It can be devastating. And the only way to treat it, the medical profession are using high doses of steroids, IV steroids, methotrexate, a lot of, chemotherapeutic drugs. I mean, and the treatment sometimes worse than the actual disease. So I have a lot of, I really feel for you, and I really look at, and it sounds like you're doing a lot of good, healthy things, but I think that the solution is in homeopathy. The solution is in homeopathy.
No, I would agree. And one thing as well, that because my thing started, I was a strabismus, amblyopia, and that is so poorly understood. Because honestly, I do think a lot of problems for me was that you go to ophthalmologists, optometrists, and they don't understand how the eyes work together. They give you multifocal glasses. They do, I mean, just so many things I know now were absolutely the worst things you could do for somebody with amblyopia. Because I have a lot of eye conditions, but that one I've had since I was a kid. But the amount of optometrists that I've gone to kind of fix problems they're having with my sight, and it just got very frustrating, like horribly frustrating.
Well,
Um,
fortunately, in the U.S., we have a group of eye doctors, a organization is called the College of Vision Development, and also the College of Syntonic Optometry. These are eye doctors who really look at the fundamental functions of vision. They really understand vision, and they want to do things holistically for the eye in terms of avoiding surgery, understanding binocularity, and avoiding surgery for strabismus. So there is a very large movement here in the US. And I think that there are probably, you may want to search the College of Syntonics. I think there's a couple of Irish eye doctors who belong to the College of Syntonics, because I occasionally go to their meetings.
Yeah, and like in my adult life, most of the care I've gotten has been in the US, and I'll be honest with you, it hasn't been good at all. Now I did go to Moorfields in London. I found them kind of very, very helpful, but I do think that most of the help is actually, I went to the Eye Summit that you were on recently, and it's just been really having to search outside mainstream. I mean, and trust my own, instincts as well. You go to people and they, they're already on to the next patient while they're still doing, kind of triaging you, like me or whatever, or else you're too complex. It's really people do need to kind of figure things out themselves. Listen to people like you and all the other people that would have been on that eye summit recently.
Oh, here's a question here. What are some of the homeopathic remedies for uveitis? That's a good question. See, in homeopathy, we treat the person, not the eye disease. Traditional medicine, there'll be one medication for uveitis, prednisone or methotrexate. Homeopathy, we treat the person. So if I treat 100 people with uveitis, each one may need a different homeopathic remedy because we're looking at the underlying cause which produces the uveitis. And of course, in Chinese medicine, there's a strong connection with the liver and the eye. And the liver in Chinese medicine is the organ for the emotions of anger and frustration. And anytime you have inflammation, you're always thinking of anger or frustration. And I'm not saying that all cases of uveitis are related to that, but typically when you talk to a uveitis patient, they are frustrated with their treatment, And so, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Did the uveitis develop because maybe there was issues of frustration in their life, or did it come later because they got the disease? But in homeopathy, we always look for the emotional component of a disease. What was going on in your life when you developed your eye problem? And I know I was dealing with a gentleman who went blind in his right eye, and the right side is the masculine side. He was a young guy in his 50s and suddenly went blind in his right eye. And I was asking him, what was going on in your life around the time you lost the vision? And he was like reflecting on that. And he said that his good friend, who he had worked with in business for many, many years, they had a major corporation set up, and he invested a lot of money in it. And his words were, "I was blindsided by this investment." That was his words. And that was the whole homeopathic case, the shock. He went blind. So it's fascinating when you kind of really talk to people and find out what's going on in their life. There's certain things that'll be revealed, and that's what makes homeopathy fascinating, when you discover the emotional relationship to the disease. And I think one of the biggest emotional issues is that when we get older, we don't want to see ourselves age. I am 75, but I feel like I'm 20. And sometimes when I look in the mirror, I go, who is this old guy? That can't be you. So maybe then I'll develop a cataract or macular degeneration. So when I look in the mirror, I go, hey, you're still looking pretty good. So it could be something subtle like that. So I think that you need to embrace aging and embrace all the rewards that come with aging. So anyway, in homeopathy, we treat the person, not the disease. And that's what makes homeopathy so wonderful. Allison, we have a new question. My apologies, Mara. We have another question.
I have a question about floaters, and I'm sure there's an emotional component with my macular degeneration, because my husband was ill with a neurodegenerative disease for many years, and he died 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago. And, during this time, my eyes got worse. So I'm planning to see you for a homeopathic consult. But I recently got this floater, and it looked like a piece of string. And eventually it kind of rolled itself up into a black floater that, of course, that moves around as my eyes move around. It's really quite annoying. It's right in front of me here. So would homeopathy help with something like that as well? And why is it like a thread that rolls up into a ball?
Well, there's two ways to answer the question about floaters. One, you can talk about the anatomical reason, and then you can also talk about the mental and emotional. So the anatomical, as we get older, the jelly inside the eye tends to shrink, and it'll pull away from the back of the retina, and we start seeing the floater. Some people feel that it's related to toxins, maybe dehydration. So if you're dehydrated, something's going to shrink, and it'll pull away from the back of the eye. Then if you look from the homeopathic perspective or the mental and emotional, the first question I would ask is, how are the floaters bothering? How are they bothering you? What is it about them that bother you?
Well,
You may say, well, they're irritating me, they're blocking. Well, then the next question would be is what's irritating you in your life? What is blocking your life? So these are kind of like a manifestation of the inner.
Oh, interesting.
So, you change the inner, the outer will change.
Very interesting.
So well, there's probably a lot of things that are irritating you in your life. And like everybody, you wake up, things irritate you. So we kind of look at that. And then if we find a solution, remember, if you change the inner, you change the outer. The other thing that I think is really fascinating, vision, our eyes are more than just receiving information. They're also projecting information. So when I look outside and I go, oh, it's a beautiful day, the sun is shining, I'm happy. Or I could look outside and go, I see two clouds up there, it's going to rain, it's going to be miserable, I better not go outside. The temperature, it's too chilly, I may catch a cold, and so you're interpreting, you're projecting images out there. Is the glass half full or is the glass half empty?
Right.
I mean, I can look at you and I can immediately point out all the beautiful features about you. You have a nice smile, your glasses are attractive. Or I could look at you and go, those glasses are ugly, she doesn't have a nice smile, her hair's gray, why is she, So your vision is, you're projecting. And if you change your inner, then you'll change your outer. And that's one of the things about homeopathy. Homeopathy, we try to change the inner, and then all your diseases and symptoms and disharmony will improve. So I love it when patients get a good homeopathic remedy. They say, I don't know what you gave me, Dr. Kondrot, but I've never felt so good about myself. Imagine how wonderful it would be to feel good about yourself. Okay. Any other questions?
So the homeopathic remedies that you have, like how easy are they to get? Are they,
Oh,
you know?
they're available. They're available everywhere. One of the top homeopathic pharmacies in the world is Helios in London. And I order a lot of my homeopathic products from Helios. You may have heard of them.
No, never heard of them. Thank you.
Helios, you can Google Helios, Helios, Helios Pharmacy in London. And I also deal with a homeopathic pharmacy in California for the US, but they're available all over the world. But it's interesting, this meeting, we're talking more about homeopathy and the energetic aspect of eye disease. So I think that's been hope it's helpful for all of you, and we can all kind of reflect on what's going on with our eyes and what's going on with our life, and maybe what some of the reasons why we're having vision problems.
I
Oh,
have an
speaking of aging, I have to tell you a joke. There was a 96-year-old guy. He brought in his wife, who's 94. They went in front of the judge, and they said to the judge, "Your Honor, we're petitioning for a divorce." And the judge looked at them. He said, "You're 96 and she's 94. How long have you been married?" He goes, 63 years. "And why a divorce now?" And they says, "Well, we wanted to wait till the children died." So they were waiting for their children to die before they got the divorce. Okay, what is your experience with laser therapy for AMD? Well, right now, most doctors are not using laser for AMD. They're using injections. And injections can be beneficial in some cases, but I don't recommend injections. I look, you want to try to find out the underlying cause before you get the injections. Now, there is a company that's developed a particular laser therapy for dry macular degeneration, and I think it's similar to light therapy. This is under research right now. A low-level laser to help regenerate the eye. But I like, if you do have macular degeneration, I think you always have to look at the basics: your diet, nutrition, proper hydration, reducing stress, and trying to look at the underlying cause for the macular degeneration.
I
Oh,
meant light therapy.
light
Mm.
therapy. Yeah, light therapy can be very, very effective. That's part of my program. I use light therapy. There's a group of doctors called the College of Syntonic Optometrists who've been using light therapy for macular degeneration. In fact, there's been several studies published on light therapy used alone for macular degeneration. The red, infrared light. But you have to be careful, because I think this question was brought up earlier. People talk about red light, red infrared light. You're putting energy into the eye. So I think that would be good for dry macular. But if you have wet macular where you have inflammation, you want to quiet the eye. So when you do use light therapy, you really have to understand what's going on with your eye. And it should be done under the supervision, of an eye doctor. Do you want to quiet the eye? Do you want to put more energy in? It depends on your eye condition. But it's interesting, in the College of Syntonics, we look at the autonomic nervous system. So typically, as we get older, our sympathetic system tends to die, and we get more and more of the parasympathetic, or it could be just the opposite. We could have a sympathetic overtone. So we want to see where the autonomic nervous system is. But typically, if you have dry macular, we need to put more energy into your body. You have a parasympathetic overtone. The sympathetic isn't as strong. And a lot of times people refer to this as adrenal fatigue. You've lived in a sympathetic state all your life, fear, frustration, your adrenals are burned out, and all you have left is the parasympathetic. And so your body is slowly dehydrating and dying. We want to put more energy in, so we want to put spectrums of light to give your body more energy. But I think it's you have to be careful. You're just randomly using different light therapies on your body. You have to understand where your parasympathetic system is, and you also have to understand the type of macular degeneration you have. Is it wet? Is it dry? Do you have drusens, hemorrhage, poor circulation, all these things in order to get the most effective treatment.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have another question.
Yes.
Yeah, so like the retinal damage. So I have well, a stroke, a big scotoma, central macular. And when I fast, like into day 2, going into day 3, it's just observational, and I don't know the significance of it, but I get these massive they're almost like circles of light that just expand out, because I have photopsia, but it takes over my whole eye. So I wasn't sure, like, is that good, bad, or indifferent? It's just on day 2, maybe, and going into day 3 of a fast.
Well, we have to look at the symptoms. The symptoms are the body expressing itself. If you believe the body has an intelligence, anytime you have a symptom related to a condition, we have to study that symptom. And that's all what homeopathy is. We try to, uh, analyze your symptoms, the relationship when you're having them, if it's related to fasting or whatever. And then we use that to correlate with a particular homeopathic remedy. So, whether that is good or bad, I couldn't tell you, but right now it's just the way your body is expressing itself. I could give a kind of like a scientific inflammation explanation. The retinal cells are being stimulated, or there's some toxins and things like that. That's just the human mind trying to understand itself. But all we can do is look at the symptoms and try to correlate that with a, particular homeopathic remedy. We don't have to understand the physics of it or the biomechanics of it. Just understand how the body is expressing itself. Okay, any other
Yeah,
questions?
just one question. So then, with the you put in an intervention, are they for a period of time, or would you be doing for the rest of your life?
Well, with homeopathy, we want to correct the imbalance in your body. And typically that may be a couple of months. It could be one remedy. But in most cases, the analogy is peeling layers of an onion. We take care of one layer and something else may develop. So in other words, homeopathy doesn't cure you of all future problems. You present with a certain symptoms or certain disease state. And then we look at trying to find a homeopathic remedy or treatment to correct that disease state. So that will improve, but then maybe something else will develop. Maybe a deeper layer will develop. I like using LM potencies. And Hahnemann, in his later life, talked about the LMs. The LMs are a potency that you take every day. It's a very dilute solution. You take it every day. Tends to be more gentle on the body, and you don't have to worry about antidoting. Many of you have taken homeopathic remedies. Your doctor told you can't have mint, you can't have coffee, you can't do this, no dental surgery, you have to avoid this. With the LMs, you just continue your life. You can take mint, drink coffee, because the LMs, you take a small dose every day. And it seems to be more gentle in terms of pushing the body more towards health without having aggravations. So I use the LM potencies in my homeopathic treatments. Okay, well, we're coming to a close of the hour, and I want to thank all of you for joining me. It's been a really fun meeting, a lot of good questions. Thank you, Maura. You took control of the meeting. You had a lot of really good questions. I appreciate you being here, and I think your questions helped everybody. You know, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I think anytime you ask a question, there's probably 4 or 5 other people who are thinking the same thing and are thanking you for asking it. But anyway, it's a pleasure. Blessings to all of you, and look forward to our next meeting in a couple of weeks. Have a good week.
Thank you.